meeting. Welcome to the October CapMac meeting. Let me switch over and share my screen. Okay, so you should see my screen now, my slide deck.
Yep.
Okay, good deal. I can't see myself, so it's hard to tell. Okay, so let's look at the agenda. First thing, our visitors. We already had mention of Paula being a visitor. Do we have any others tonight besides Jeff? Okay, well.
John, I think you're going to get one. It's a neighbor of mine, and he's come to a CapMac meeting. John Alexander. He'll show up as Neanderthal. His screen name. Actually, what he said, he sent me a text just now, and he said he's upgrading his iPad so he can do Zoom on it.
I hope he started early, because that last upgrade to iOS 15 took about 40 minutes for me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh goodness, okay.
It's not a quick upgrade.
He's interested in Jeff's security presentation.
Well, anything he misses will be on the recording, so he can catch up there.
Right.
Thank you, though, for bringing it up. So welcome to the visitors we have. Thank you for joining us, and you're always welcome. A little bit about us. We are up on a membership. I did not update this. That should be 54, 4, and 1 in terms of the membership. We have a number of ways for you to follow CapMac. We have our website, the calendar that you can subscribe to, a Twitter account, Facebook, a YouTube channel, and a Slack team. So any of those or all of those things, you're welcome to sign on and follow us. So what do we have on the agenda tonight? We'll be talking a little bit of business and announcements. We have a tech tip on how to use Zoom better by Jill and Koki. Jim Wynn's going to do our get to know section, and we have Jeff Butts going to be doing privacy in the digital age. So we have a lot going on this evening. So what does the board look like of CapMac? Well, it's the same old folks that you've seen for the last year. Hopefully we're going to get together one day and we can put Nancy in there standing alongside of us instead of a added in photo one of these days. But there we are. Board meetings, if you're interested in attending, are the Monday before the first Tuesday. No easier way to say it than that. So if you're interested, let us know, and you are certainly welcome to attend. We do have a number of appointed positions. We'll be refreshing this with the new terms starting in January. So if there's something you'd like to do, let us know so we can plan accordingly. As I mentioned, we have a shared calendar that's on the CapMac iCloud account, and the details for how to subscribe, if you have any questions, were posted both in Slack and was in the last email that went out. So if you want to keep track of everything that we're doing, that's the best way to do that. Our last general meeting was a good turnout. As we have been doing since May of 2020, we are recording our Zoom meetings and have them available on our YouTube channel. So if there's a meeting you've missed, go to the YouTube channel and you can see what it is we were talking about in your absence. Or if you have a friend, point them at that. It's always good to have traffic going to that YouTube channel. The help desk we have been maintaining while we used to do it at our live meetings in the time while we were all eating dinner. We've now gone to having a 30-minute period just before our general meetings available to those who call in and want to ask questions to our help desk team. Thanks to Robert and Jim Wynn, and I forget who else is on the committee now, but for answering any technical questions that come up. It's always good to have someone to ask or to run something by it when you're having a problem. We'll be continuing that going forward. As you know from our past couple of meetings, we started doing some daytime meetings as well. Now, these are not a structured program like we have tonight, but more of a just call and talk for an hour or more with others on the line. The last one was on the 7th of October. I have another one scheduled on the 28th. I got this one in scheduled early this time. So we'll be doing that as long as we have one of the board members to fill in to host that meeting, so that we can have a daytime chat. There seemed to be a fair amount of interest in having that capability, and topics range all over the spot, all over the place. I think last time we had some troubleshooting by Robert and some of the other members. We talked World War II history. We talked all kinds of things. So it's a good opportunity to just share amongst those who are on the phone or on the line. And I should say that is on the calendar. So if you've subscribed to the calendar, you will see that showing up in that calendar. We do have a special project that we just began. Nancy, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Sure. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. I'm using Tom's neat trick about holding down the space bar. We're working on a special project, meaning the board, and we need input from everybody. I simply want you to tell us 3 things that make your computer life easier or more fun. Just 3 things, short tips. They can be about your Mac, iOS, or iPad OS. And you may even have software or some accessory that you can't live without. You may, best of all, you may have figured out a time saver, or just want to share something that you learned with somebody else. So what I gave you a couple of examples here of the one that Tom came up with when you're using Zoom to hold down your space bar to talk. Another one is if you constantly find yourself typing the same things over and over and over and over and over. There's an app called Text Expander that will save your life. It actually saves me 24 hours a month because I do a lot of this. So that's something that I would share. So now it's up to you. We need your contributions. You can email them to me at ngravely@icloud.com. And please take just a few moments and do this, because this is an important project and we want you to be part of it. So I want to thank everybody ahead of time. See if I can make you feel guilty. Thank everybody ahead of time for participating. Are there any questions?
So can we talk about some stuff that we learned on CapMac with like the HomeKit stuff?
Sure.
Oh,
If what we're looking for is what's important to you. So
Okay.
share what you can. Do we have a cutoff date for this, Nancy?
the shortcuts too, that I learned a lot with the shortcuts.
Oh yeah, we do have a time frame. I've got it. I forgot what it is.
And how are we supposed to share these tips
You
Email it to Nancy.
Email them to me, please.
and put like help with special project or something clever in the title so you'll know it's about this?
If it comes from a member of CapMac, I will open it. So anything clever in there you want to put.
You might say 2021 tips, just to get it.
Yeah, or whatever works.
We'll get it sorted out. And
I guess some people are better at their email than I am. I need all these kind of handy.
And if you forget Nancy's email, just send it to president@CapMac. I'll get it to her.
Yeah, but we do need these by the middle of November at the latest. But if you wait that long, you're going to forget to do it. So,
well, we'll have the November meeting to remind them just before that cutoff.
okay.
And we can remind everyone that it goes into the Coffee with CapMac later this month as well. So thank you with that, Nancy. Does anyone have any questions before we proceed on? Okay. Well, let me share a little cartoon. A friend of mine, not an Apple user by any means, but someone shared with me. someone's tongue-in-cheek depiction of an apple tree with all the Apple products hanging off of it.
That's cute. The
So,
apple tree.
so as we have done, or I have been doing lately, I have a couple of graphs to share with you. These are all about Apple products. This is a graph of Apple mobile market share, and you look at it and goes, oh, it's pretty much flat, but that is only this year. So it shows some bit of a decline, but not much. So that's not great, but it's not bad either. So I guess we take it as it is. Moving on, the usage of Apple Maps versus Google Maps. Obviously, Google's much larger because there's more devices that use Google Maps, all those Android phones. But we have a reasonable share. And lastly, looking at the smart speaker market. That's hard for me to say. Several of us have talked over the time, or we've had speakers that have talked about using their Apple smart speaker. Obviously, it's a very small share of the overall market, with Amazon and Google having the predominant market share. So those are little things that I thought came across in the past month I thought I would share with you. So that brings us up to the first group of speakers, which is going to be Jill and Koki. Are you all ready to take over?
John, please look at the note I put for you in chat.
Who? Who? Tom, I didn't hear you said.
I got it.
Okay. Actually, I believe Koki was going to begin this. What we've noticed is that depending on how your view is, you can be set up with speaker view or gallery view. And some people wanted to know how the chats could be sent to everyone or to just a particular person. So I'm sorry, Koki, I just jumped in like I did. Koki? Oh no, Koki's mute.
Yeah, she's
Unmute Koki.
Okay, there we go.
Thank
I'm
you.
I'm doing the setup for the share screen.
Okay. I am not sharing screen, so Koki's going to be talking over this.
Okay, did I get it? Is it on there
You
yet?
got it.
since you are sharing
Okay.
screen. Yeah.
Okay, let me get to the part where I need it. Come on, slide up like you're supposed to. Which? There it is. Okay, I don't know if you can see at the bottom down here where it has your microphone and all that. Well, it
We
just
could.
went away.
Went away.
You could.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
For just a second.
Okay, give me a second. I got to get back into the Zoom meeting now. Hey, no, cancel that. Let me do it again, or try to get back into the Zoom screen. Hold on, I know what to do. Let's cancel that and just go to straight to Zoom. Okay. Okay. Okay.
You want to
All right.
FaceTime instead of Zoom.
Yeah, I know. That's what I thought I did. Zoom, there it is. Okay. Now let me get back to this. Sometimes my phone is iffy sliding up, so I don't know why it is. It's been
Are you
iffy.
using a pencil or your finger?
There it is, my
There.
finger. My finger. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and go back to it. But see at the bottom where it says share contact?
Went away again.
Okay. Yeah, I know. Where it says share contact, that's where you go to share screen. You click on that and it says screen at the top and you hit that. Then you hit a button.
Koki,
Yeah.
you're not sharing anymore.
I know. That's what I'm just telling you verbally.
She's
And then-
talking us through it.
Yeah. And then you start
Cooperating.
sharing. And now Now it should be sharing now.
It is.
Okay. Then I go to the bottom of the screen if I can get the stupid thing to go up right. For some reason, my screen has not been lifting. I'm mad at it. Hey,
And it's so confusing when you have multiple windows open
yeah.
on
Well,
your
that's,
whatever.
yeah, that, you're right. You're right about that.
There,
Okay.
it's on.
Okay, there we go.
Nope. And it
Nope.
just went away.
Sorry. There we go. We should be on there now. Okay. Okay. One more time. Give me one more time and then I'll. It was easy when I did it the first time.
That's always the case.
Yep. Come
We used to
on.
have we used to have a
Yes.
saying in training that never depend on a live demonstration.
Yeah. Never depend on
Always
the time.
better to record it because it never works.
Yeah.
And the more people that are there to watch it and the more important they are, the more likely it is to fail.
Okay, here we go. Now you see the screen where it says how you can share to another person or
She's showing everybody who's on the meeting, Koki,
yeah, who's on the meeting,
and what your
everybody
name
there.
is.
What your name is. And
If you go by
so-
G Hansel, I call you Greta just because even though I know that's not right, it's Ginger.
and so you can search for name. Let's see, I'm gonna do if she's here. There she is. And I'll say hello to Heidi, but you won't see it, but she will.
Except you're sharing your screen.
Yeah,
So
just say-
that's okay.
and then I send it to Heidi and it says, so she's the only one that sees my note that I sent her. But if I'm gonna chat to everybody else, then I hit me, I think. No. Oh, I close that. Then I go to chat mode. Nope, not chat mode. That's not the one I needed to hit. I needed to hit more because then it gives you the chat mode. So it says chat mode. It says there's only one person in there, but there's really not. So I'll hit the chat mode and then it'll go, and then you can see where I said hello to Heidi, I think. Can you see that?
She replied.
Huh? Because it's in, you can see that because that's my screen. So that's why you can see how I send it to Heidi. Now I can say hello or hi to everybody else and then send that. And that's how simple it is to send a message through chat. It's harder to share your screen, but it's easy to show the chat. And then everybody else who wants to respond says hello. Okay.
Yeah, Koki, that's really a good thing to share. By the way, it's Ginger, not Gretel, but I
Yeah.
Hansel and Gretel, I've got it.
Yeah.
You
got it.
I think of Hansel and Gretel in the gingerbread house, and then you'll get it.
Yeah.
But one thing I just caution, since I'm on a lot of Zoom meetings, never send anything you wouldn't want everyone to see, because inadvertently you will send something to everyone. And so
yeah.
you got to be very diplomatic at all times.
Yeah, I do understand. I do understand that, and I knew I was going to do that, so I picked that person in particular because we just usually say hi to each other. So
Okay.
yeah, there she is saying ha 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 ha. Okay, and that's my demonstration on that. So I'm going to cancel this and go back. Go close that. So you can see the screen. Can you see the screen where it says share? You are sharing your screen and all that. It shows that when you first start out your stream, and then you have all the stuff at the bottom that's got your microphone, your camera. And when it's red, that means you're sharing the screen. And then that's when you, and the ... gives you the extra stuff that says chat, meeting settings, minute, minimize meeting backgrounds. That's where you do your backgrounds and your fields and disconnect audio. And then that's where you raise your hand. We always use raise your hand a lot, you know, to if we're going to vote on something in some meetings, we raise our hands and stuff like that. So that's where all that stuff is. Okay, and so that's all of my
Can I just
presentation. Yes.
Can I just ask a question that perhaps the privacy speaker may want to talk about? I always wonder if the person that's hosting the Zoom meeting can read all the chats that went to everyone. And
Yes.
we don't have to talk about it now, but
No.
was that a yes?
Yes,
No.
that's a yes.
Okay. So another reason to be extremely
not-
cautious. I normally
not
I text
everybody
people
can.
on their own phone rather than chat because I suspected that they could read it all. Thank you, Jeff.
Excuse me, Robert said, if you send a direct message, it goes to that specific person. If you send it to everyone, it goes to everyone who is in the meeting. And one of the things that I'm not sharing my screen because Koki's still sharing her screen.
Oh, sorry. You want me to stop?
Not really. I can't do screen and Zoom. I can only talk. I can't do both. But you should stop sharing your screen because your hand's up.
Oh, okay.
I will say that for instance, on this presentation that Koki just did, I could see as the Zoom administrator, I could see Koki's hi to everyone, but I couldn't see her hi to Heidi in
Oh, okay.
the chat that I monitor. So I don't see direct.
That's because you are listed as CapMac.
Well, I know,
and-
but
and you wouldn't see it. You wouldn't see it if I sent it to Heidi without being the
Right.
screensaver. You wouldn't see
But
it.
that was
because I always say hi to her.
That was Ginger's question. So that was, I just was
Yeah.
answering.
Yeah. So when I'm not screen sharing, I don't share it with everybody else.
Right.
I only share it with Heidi.
Right.
But if I'm screen sharing, you're going to see me saying it to Heidi.
Well, yeah,
because
of
I'm screen
course.
sharing.
But that's a different thing.
Yeah.
Robert, then you might want to address the way you share speaker view so that people know if they are not muted, the camera goes to them whether they actually want to be on camera or not.
Right.
So even though you may not want to be on camera and you're not looking at yourself while you're on camera, I mean, like don't like to see myself, so I hide my self view because it distracts me to see me talking.
All right.
Anything else, Ginger?
No, those are some good questions there. And it is distracting when people don't know that they forgot to mute themselves and they're muttering to themselves and taking the speaker view. But if you pin the speaker, then those other people don't pop into the middle. So that's often quite helpful. I do a Zoom Tai Chi class, and if I don't remember to pin the teacher, somebody that left the mute on making, noises in the background, suddenly I'm following them and I really want to follow the teacher. So I usually just pin the main person.
And Robert, as the administrator and he's kind of the administrator of the Zoom meeting. He has more control over everything. Like he's the one who determines when it starts recording. And anyway, you do have to play with it, and all of us would do well to look at ourselves as we may appear on earlier YouTube videos of our Zoom meetings.
Yeah, you want to be careful because if your phone rings and you turn to answer it, you become the who's on the screen. Or if your dog barks, or if your spouse starts talking to you, or all sorts of anything else, you're the one on the screen. So you want to keep mute on unless you're talking, unless you intend to be talking.
And Nancy pointed out, you know, you can have have a setting so that you automatically come up with on mute and no camera, and then you just push the space bar when you want to talk, so you don't accidentally forget to remute yourself. So there's a lot of tricks. We'll get good at this at some point.
Well, that's exactly the point of tonight. Jill and Koki will probably be sharing other hints and tips along the way at future meetings so that we all can learn. You're shaking your head the wrong way, Jill. It should be up and down for yes. There are so many more things that we can learn about Zoom as we see them and we can share them, we will. Is there any questions about what they had to share tonight? Okay, then I'm going to move forward. I forgot to call on Nancy again because we have a very important thing to do tonight. Nancy, do you want to take control? You're muted, Nancy.
Thank you. I'm just doing that to make sure you're paying attention. It's October, and when October comes around, we always start our election process for next year's board. And this year, because of virtual meeting, the board has done the nominations differently. And what we did is appoint a committee, and the committee came up with nominations, which I'm now going to announce. You'll be able to vote before the November meeting because we need to announce the winners at the November meeting. You'll be able to vote by email. We'll send it out. We've done that before. And you can also choose at this time to nominate somebody that's not already on the list. But this is what the nomination committee came up with. President, John Purvis. Vice President, Art Smith. Secretary, Bill O'Barr. Treasurer, Tom Weaver. Board member, Jim Nguyen. Board member, Koki Craig, excuse me, Koki Craig, and board member, Robert Frazier. If you have other nominations, speak now. Okay, John, I'll turn the meeting back over to you then, and we will go with this list of nominees, and we will get the stuff out so people can vote.
Thank you, Nancy. We'll be sending out, as she says, a special email, a special email for the election that will go to just CapMac members. So next on our agenda is our get to know section, and Jim has volunteered to do that tonight. So Jim, take it over.
All righty. I think if you can hear me, I think I'm on now.
It's a little garbled.
Can you hear me now?
No.
No change.
That's good.
Let me get the microphone up closer. Can you hear me now?
It's garbled a little bit.
Jim, we can hear you okay, but you're very scratchy.
Okay, let me go back to the internal microphone on the computer.
Now you're good.
Okay, very good. Well, anyway, yeah, I've been a Macintosh user since 1990. Early spring of 1990, I bought myself an SC30 and loved it. And SC30 and an image writer too, dot matrix printer, and I started learning, learning the way around Macintosh. At work, we'd been using a Unix system from the early 80s that actually had the same CPU as the original Macintosh, but it was like a multi-user system. Had some terminals around the building and things like that. But anyway, first CapMac meeting I went to was in the February of 1994. A friend of mine who was in CapMac at the time said, "Hey, you really need to come to this meeting. Guy Kawasaki is going to be speaking." And he was at that time the principal Apple evangelist, truly trying to push Macintosh to the people and tell people what Macintosh was all about. So I went to this first meeting at the MCC auditorium. It's called the Microelectronics and Computer Technology Corporation. It's the building at the corner of Mopac and Breaker Lane. But they had a big auditorium, which the club used, because at that time there were a lot more people in the club. And I started walking in, and I was immediately accosted by Bob Levitas, who said that there was a membership contest going on, and he wanted to sponsor me for my membership to CapMac. And I kind of know who Bob was from a TV. Actually, he actually had a TV show at the time that was on the what was the low power TV station that was on the air in Austin. So I kind of knew who he was and said, sure, I'll go for that. And of course, guys' presentation that night was absolutely phenomenal. And I joined CapMac, and one of the founders of CapMac, I already knew, Lynn Chase. I had worked with his. This was before he and his wife got married, but I had worked with his wife for a number of years at the TV station, KVUE. And so, I knew Glenn, and really became a member of CapMac, and learned an awful lot. In my work, I did tech support for the Macintosh computers at the TV station. So I definitely learned a lot under fire for making them work, starting to use them for producing, graphics, for the TV news. And, continued to be a member ever since. Through the years, I've, been on the board, really starting in kind of in the mid 1990s. I was on the board for a term or two. And then later in the around 2007, I think I did 1 year on the board, although it turned out to be conflicting with my work schedule. So it was I could only stay for about the first hour of each board meeting every month. But then since I retired, I've been able to be on the board ever since. But I've done tried to help out with CapMac, however I can. So that's pretty much what I have to offer. We get on to something more interesting.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Jim. As most of you know, we've been doing this as an ongoing series, trying to bring someone in from the group to share a little bit about themselves so we get to know them a little bit better. Since we haven't been doing face-to-face meetings, this was our way of saying, well, let's find out more about one another until we can once again actually see each other face-to-face. So if you are interested in doing this next time or at a future meeting, let me know and I'll put you on the agenda. Otherwise, you may be getting a mail from me saying, would you do it? So please volunteer when you can. So that leads us up to our feature speaker.
Yeah, hi. John, you muted yourself. Did you mean to?
That focus thing biting me again. I was just asking Nancy to introduce you, Jeff.
Oh, okay.
No wonder you have that look on your face. Everybody's probably had a chance to read the written material that we shared in the newsletters, and I won't go over that. But what I will tell you is that people have been asking for a program on this topic for a couple of months. And looking around for a speaker, I went to my usual source, my son, and said, do you know somebody who can talk about this and really knows what they're talking about? And without a moment's hesitation, Jeff's name came up. And he kindly has agreed to present to us tonight. And so with that, I'd like to turn the program over to Jeff.
Well, thank you so much, Nancy. Wow, I'm kind of choked up that he thought of me that quickly. It's probably because I got myself on the FBI watch list back during the San Bernardino iPhone fiasco. I was pretty vocal against the Department of Justice strong-arming Apple. Most of you have read my bio. I've been working with computers and playing with computers since I was about 12. Started working professionally when I was 19. Worked in IT up until about 2003. Went to school, spent some time, got my bachelor's, my master's, taught for a few years, and then decided to get back into IT, but as a writer. So I've always loved playing with gadgets, playing with computers, and being able to write about it and help other people. It's really the best of both worlds. I'm not sure how I ended up with a master's in English and a master's in computers, but it definitely works in my favor when it comes to writing for Mac Observer and some other places. So privacy, and now I've focused this on Apple because this is a Mac users group. But to start off, we need to talk about what is privacy, and different people, different organizations are going to have different answers. Steve Jobs put it real simple. He said, privacy means people know what they're signing up for in plain language and repeatedly. Some people want to share more than other people do. Ask them. Steve thought, people are smart enough they can judge for themselves what information they share, what information they don't share. And he felt that Apple should allow them that freedom. Eli Pariser said privacy is about what you're willing to reveal about yourself. And notice it all comes down to you, what you want other people to know. Apple should not make that decision for you. Google should not make that decision for you. Facebook, the government, nobody should make that choice for you. And that's something that historically Apple has always stood behind, is letting the consumer decide how much of themselves they're going to put out there. At one point, Tim Cook went so far as to basically call out most of the rest of Silicon Valley. He said some of the most prominent and successful companies have built their businesses by lulling their customers into complacency about their personal information. They're gobbling up everything they can learn about you and trying to monetize it. We think that's wrong, and it's not the kind of company that Apple wants to be. That is the stance that Apple has taken, and it goes against what a lot of other people might think. Now, moving on to how the government would look at it, and this is, I don't think I'm sounding like a conspiracy theorist when I say that our government and other governments in the world, especially China, but this also applies to our government here in the United States, they don't want privacy on the internet. They're perpetually trying to spy on citizens. And E.A. Buccianeri said that, something is wrong when the government declares opening someone else's mail is a felony, but your internet activity is fair game for data collecting. And that's something that, we see all the time. Facebook is always trying to get your information. Google, your internet service provider. So a big question is, should you sacrifice your security to maintain privacy? And early on, this was before my time, I didn't come into the Mac ecosystem until OS 10. But early Apple was not nearly as concerned about security. They still worried about privacy, but the Macintosh was a very, very small portion of personal computers. There weren't really any viruses or malwares targeting the Macs, so the security wasn't as strong as it is now. Apple really started to have to worry about both security and privacy as the iPhone exploded. And that's when Cupertino started to develop technology that would help not just with security, but also with privacy. We've got Touch ID, where we can lock down our phone and nobody can get in it without our fingerprint. Now we have Face ID doing something very similar. The Secure Enclave chip that started, I believe, with the iPhone 5S. All of your encryption keys, all of your really sensitive private data is stored on that Secure Enclave chip. Apple doesn't have the key to that. And that's what threatened to get them in such hot water with the San Bernardino iPhone, because the government wanted them to write a backdoor that would bypass the secure enclave chip. And they said, no, we can't do that. Over the next few years, it'll be interesting to see, because our government is trying again to insist that that Apple and other computer and software manufacturers cannot build a system that they cannot break into. The legislation just recently came up in, I believe it was in the Senate. It didn't go anywhere. It won't go anywhere, but the shots are still being fired. Some legislators want it to be law that the excuse, we don't have any way to get into that data, is no longer legal grounds for not doing it. So, little digression there. The other technology that Apple has baked into iOS and macOS is increasing use of end-to-end encryption. When you send a message through iMessage, that message is encrypted. It gets encrypted before it leaves your phone. It gets decrypted on the other end. Apple doesn't have the key to that. They cannot get into it. Tim Cook stressed that privacy and security should go hand in hand. He said, we at Apple reject the idea that our customers should have to make trade-offs between privacy and security. We can and we must provide both in equal measure. He went on to say that people have a fundamental right to privacy. The American people demand it. The Constitution demands it. Morality demands it. And so everything Apple does in response to consumer privacy should revolve around that philosophy, that we can have both privacy and security hand in hand, and they both need to be strong enough that what we don't want everyone else to know about doesn't get out. So, what else has Apple done over the years? In 2015, they introduced content blockers into iOS 9. What these did were block those little scripts that would try to chase down who you were, where you were coming from, what information someone else might be able to get about you off of your phone. That was baked into iOS 9. It was baked into Safari. 2016 was the San Bernardino iPhone case. Apple was ordered to open up the iOS, the iPhone, and allow the government to get that information. They appealed it. And you know, it was funny because in 2016, Edward Snowden says that citizens are forced to rely on Apple to defend their rights rather than the government. And, you know, he objected to that. Tim Cook stated the government is asking Apple to hack our own users and undermine decades of security advancements that protect our customers. Apple both won and lost in that. They didn't have to build the back door, but someone else did instead. The next year, 2017, word comes out that there are exploits in iOS that were allowing US intelligence agencies to snoop on iPhones and sometimes even control their devices. As soon as that leak came out, Apple responded. Most of the exploits had already been patched. The rest were being addressed. And if I recall correctly, they were all addressed by the end of 2017. During that year, iOS 11 and Safari version 12 introduced intelligent tracking prevention, which goes a step further than the content blockers to make sure that the information you're transmitting over the internet is what you want it to be. It's not more than you want or less than you want. At the same time, there were concerns being raised about Siri. What was happening with your voice when you made a request to Siri? Well, Apple introduced differential privacy, where before your audio recordings were sent off to Apple for processing, raw noise was injected. That way your voice was masked and the raw noise helped prevent any reverse engineering that would get your voice back to normal and allow some third party to have access to it. 2019, we realized that so many people were saying, "Hey, S lady," and activating every phone around. So federated learning came into Siri that prevents other devices from waking up when you say, "Hey, S lady." It also helps prevent other people from being able to activate Siri on your phone. Continuing on, in 2020, there was a major concern about mobile identifiers. And this primarily came because of the way app developers were using those unique identifiers. And they were using it to kind of skirt around some of the privacy protections. So Apple patched that, changed how the identifiers could be accessed, and at the same time, more advances in WebKit, which is baked into Safari. An exploit that was being used where a website would send you a cookie, but it would hide what host name, the name of the computer was that the cookie came from. That allowed these cookies to just sit there and anybody could take over that cookie. Well, now if you get a third party, it's called a CNAME cloaked cookie. It has a time to live of only 7 days. So it expires in 7 days. That goes a step further to protect your privacy and prevent malware from getting a foothold in your iPhone or your iPad. A lot more has happened just this year. We've realized that other companies were using, they were able to track our activity outside of their own apps. When you're using Facebook, it can track what you're doing on the web. It can track what you're doing in the Amazon app. It can track what you're doing in other apps. Apple said, you shouldn't have to allow them that freedom. Now, the benefit to it is that when Facebook sends you an ad, it's more personalized because they know your browsing habits, they know your shopping habits. But if you don't want them to have that information, now iOS has app tracking settings so that you can tell those apps, nope, you cannot track my information outside of your company. iOS 15 also introduces some new iCloud Plus features. Private Relay acts very similar to a VPN. You're browsing in Safari. It goes through 2 layers of encrypted servers, masking your IP address and your location before it actually gets to your destination website. That's another step in keeping not only the website from tracking you, but also your ISP. Mail privacy protection and hide my email. When you sign up on a form, you don't have to give your email address anymore. If you've got an iCloud Plus subscription, you can have it create an email alias specific for that website. And if you start getting too much spam email from that particular site, you just deactivate the private email address. So, how much privacy do we actually have? Whether it's on our iPhone, our Macs, our iPads. Your location information. Maps does not associate any data with your Apple ID. Apple does not keep track of your location data. All of that is stored on your phone, but in Apple's eyes, it's not tied to your Apple ID. There's no way to backtrack and use Apple servers to pinpoint where a particular person has been. Your photos. Photos does a great job of facial recognition, even determining objects. Pictures of my dog are automatically labeled as Dakota. All of that is happening on your phone. It's not happening on Apple servers. It's not tied to your Apple ID. There's something else going on there, but we'll get to that in a minute. The end-to-end encryption in iMessages, we've already talked about. When you use Siri, your audio requests to Siri are now, excuse me, processed entirely on your device. Nothing is transmitted to Apple regarding your Apple ID. And when you ask Siri to do something, she processes that entirely on your device without sending your voice to Apple. If you're using Apple News, your reading history does not go to Apple. Apple does not see that associated with your Apple ID. Financial, Apple Wallet, Apple Pay. You know, we put our credit card numbers, our debit card numbers into there, but do we really know what happens to them? The fact is nothing happens. They're stored in the secure enclave chip. They're not given to Apple. They're actually assigned a completely different number that if you ever look at your receipt when you use Apple Pay in a store, it probably says it's a Discover card, even though it's a Visa or MasterCard. That's because Apple is assigning it on your device a debit card number separate from the real number. Apple doesn't have that information. They don't keep transaction information that can be tied back to you. The health app, especially now with COVID-19, a lot of us are storing our COVID-19 vaccine cards in health. Now that that's available in iOS 15, you control who has access to that. not Apple. Nobody can get to that if you don't allow them to. And new in sorry, I just got a direct message about someone who does not have privacy. I'm not sure how that came about. I might have to look into that later. App developers, when your apps come in, when you download an app, when you look at an app on the App Store, if that app has been updated recently, the developer is required to tell you what they're going to do with your data. Now, there are still apps on the App Store that don't reveal that, but those are apps that have not been updated since the new policies took effect. Is it a perfect world? No. And there is a lot of controversy happening, especially this year, when Apple announced it was going to start scanning photos for child sexual abuse material. This was a real difficult thing for me to decide whether I was in favor or opposed to it, because I absolutely abhor any exploitation or abuse of children. But looking at what the technology does and how it can be repurposed, researchers at Princeton already tried this. And they said, you know what? With the current state of technology, we don't recommend it, because you develop this system and someone else can repurpose it. And now you have Big Brother watching over your phone, scanning your photos, not for sexual abuse material, but for proof that you're speaking out against the current administration, or you're not falling in line with the popular theories. So Apple's response to that has been to basically put CSAM on hold. They maintained that it was still happening on your device. All of the scanning was happening on your photos. Your photos were not being sent to iCloud unless there was child sexual abuse material in those photos. Still, the technology is too immature. And many of us think that it needs to be solidified so that it can't be abused. So that if this type of software can't fall into the hands of some third world despot who then uses it to solidify his hold over people. The last thing I want to mention, and this has become a lot more, this has actually shaken some of my thoughts about Apple and its true privacy stance to the core. In the past several months, there have been a lot of allegations that your information is safe as long as you don't work for Apple. There have been a lot of allegations of Apple spying on its employees, being able to turn on either their eyesight camera on their Mac or even the camera on their phone without them even knowing it and recording what's going on. A lot of that is still surfacing in the news. We don't really know for sure. Is it true? Is it just a baseless accusation? We don't know, but it is concerning. I want to think that Apple is still just as concerned about our privacy as they always have been. And I still believe that our devices are more secure and protect our privacy better than any other devices out there. I just hope it continues. So that's all I've got. I hope that helps talk about, what you need to worry about and what Apple has been doing to put those worries at ease. And I guess now I will take any have.
I have one. How do you reconcile Apple still doing business in China with the Chinese government requiring a whole bunch of privacy invasion?
That's a difficult one, John. And in most cases, from what we've been gathering from the news, Apple's contracts with the suppliers don't permit the Chinese government to do that much invasion. There have been some suggestions otherwise, but Apple's response is usually pretty swift. And it's not just China. We saw a case, I want to say it was in Brazil or somewhere else in South America, where call center employees were being forced to sign a new contract that would allow their employers to monitor them through a webcam. And Apple quickly stepped in and said, no, not if they're working on our programs.
So, Jeff, I had a question.
Yeah.
And we talked about it a bit during the CapMac coffee meeting, where my brother was wondering if stuff that transfers, like if he kept his security and keychain, is that out on the cloud where it could be hacked? So why have all your passwords out where somebody could hack it? And we
Right.
kind of think that those are just encrypted and passed from device to device. So they exist on the devices, not in the cloud. And so I wanted you to verify that. But my secondary question is, all that stuff in the cloud, is that encrypted? Like, if I've got files up there and photos and all of that. I think you talked about that a bit, but I just want to be real clear.
It depends on what it is. The end-to-end encryption really only applies to messages and FaceTime. Keychain does have that end-to-end encryption, and it's passing through the secure enclave chip on your iPhone. And if your Mac has that, it's processed through that as well. But it is using that end-to-end encryption. I do think it is probably stored on iCloud somewhere. If it weren't, there would be, like, if I had my Mac shut down and added something to Keychain, it may never make it to my Mac. But it does, and that's how it happens. It's because it is stored. But there again, it's 256-bit encryption. It's the sort of encryption that, yeah, maybe the government could hack it, but it would take 40, 60 years with a whole room of crazy supercomputers cracking away at it.
So if it is stored on the cloud, that they're in an encrypted form waiting to go down to the other Mac items that have my Apple ID.
Again, yeah, the keychain and messages, yes. Other things, no. And that's actually a weakness that has just recently been discussed, is, that is a way that, in theory, Apple could gain access to your messages. If you are storing your messages in an iCloud backup, that does not have the same type of encryption that iMessages uses. It's encrypted, but Apple has the key to it.
So, if I back my phone up to the cloud and messages are on my phone because I use the phone to text, then is that they have access perhaps to the backup?
They could, yeah. Yeah. And that is why we're now recommending that you turn off messages in your iCloud backups and instead use the iCloud sync, the iMessages sync feature, because that does maintain the end-to-end encryption, and Apple does not have the key to it. You
Thank
could
you.
also,
Go ahead.
yeah, you could also use for your backups something like iMazing. iMazing allows you to create your own security keys. They don't have access to the keys, and it's not stored in the cloud. It's actually stored on your Mac.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I actually had a lot of trouble with iMazing. I finally had to get my money back.
Really? What kind of problems did you have, Art?
I'm trying to think right now. It's been so long. What I wanted was what they couldn't deliver. Okay. I wanted basically, I have a little program from, and I'm trying to remember the name of the program. This is very embarrassing. But anyway, what it is allows me to take music off of a disc and put it in a file format, and you can, and you eventually have a long enough list that are playlists that you can burn it to a CD. And I thought that that's what iMazing was gonna help me do, but it didn't turn out that way. And they and I got into a sort of a spat about money back and this, that, and the other. So I eventually got my money back, but.
Well, I'm glad you did. I've used iMazing for years. I swear by their software, but I can definitely understand if you think it's going to do something and then it doesn't, then that's going to be, that's when you want them to have good customer service.
Right. It was just I imagine it was a big misunderstanding on my part. That's why I will certainly give them the credit for doing what they did with me. So.
Well, good.
The subject of having secure backups of your iPhone came up a moment ago. That's one way to do it, is to use iMazing to back up your devices. It can make the backup on your Mac rather than in the cloud.
Yep. And then, if you're limited in space on your Mac, you can have it go onto an external drive. I know in my case, if I were to do all of my full iPhone backups to iCloud, I would run out of space in a hurry unless I wanted to spring for the 2 terabyte plan, which I don't.
I guess I was lucky. I was the chief engineer of a TV station in Austin, and this particular weather service would send out new hard drives. Well, let's say once, maybe twice a year, and they wouldn't want it. They wouldn't want them back, and they wouldn't, and they were perfectly good drives. So I just converted them into a RAID array, and that's what I back up to.
Okay.
And that obviously that they could all 3 die at one particular time, but so far it's been good.
Good deal.
Jeff, I have a question. My iMessage content could not possibly be more innocuous. It's like, what time is beading class this week? Can you bring my grandson over? How could, or why would anybody want to have access to that?
In your case, maybe not. Maybe they wouldn't, unless they wanted to track your activities and know when you were going to have your grandson so that they could then try to take him. You asked. I'll come up with scenarios. It's really, most of us don't need that much security. We don't need that much privacy. But on the other hand, if let's say that that there's something really, really terrible happening in Congress and people are storming the House of Representatives, and we want to coordinate trying to stop that. Well, we would rather not have someone able to hack into that information and know what we're doing.
Yeah. So if I simply make sure that my text messages do not go into the cloud, I should be okay.
Well, if you've got the iMessage sync turned on, you're okay, because that maintains the end-to-end encryption. Apple doesn't have the keys. It's if you have messages turned on in your iCloud backups. And I want to say Andrew Orr actually wrote up an article on that last week or the week before. And if you'd like, I can locate that and send it to you.
That would be great. Thank you.
I think many people would like to have that.
There are hands raised that haven't been called on yet.
Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do that.
Well, Koki's has been up since she demonstrated how to put her hand
Yeah.
up. You have to take them
Koki-
down. That's the hard
Koki never
part with
took her
putting
hand
hands up. But she may have a question.
Yeah, Koki, did you have a question? I know Jim does.
Koki, you're muted.
No, I do not have a question. I'll fix my hand.
Okay. Jim F., I see your hand is up.
And you're on mute.
Yes, nice listening to your presentation. It's pretty amazing. I've just got finally I had to retire my time capsule.
Mhm.
And it was, the tower that they stopped making that, I don't know, about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yep.
And I loved it. And it worked so well as a backup, a physical backup right here in my home office.
Mhm.
And then just kind of recently, a few years ago, I added a couple of Western Digital nice size 3 terabyte dual drives on a toaster. Someone described it as a toaster, and that's the signature brand over at Best Buy. And so I could throw
Okay.
those in. Now, just recently, my time capsule just failed on me, and I wouldn't believe it for the longest time. No, it's not failed. I'll make this work. And I
Mhm.
kept at it. Oh, I just couldn't believe it. But it just was not working reliably at all. So short answer is I just unplugged it and I put it at the bottom of my shelf in storage. I certainly didn't feel like, I'd had all my Mac backups on it for a number of years.
Mhm.
I didn't want to just toss it over to Austin Recycle. You know what I mean? So what's the best way to dispose of that? Now, I did say, should have taken a hammer and just banging the heck out of it. That's just too vulgar to me, but it would work. But I thought I could stick a screwdriver in the ports. You'd never get into the ports again. That'd be easy to do. Now, what do you say?
I say that somebody who knows how to solder could put a new port on it.
I
easily.
see. If you just bang up the ports, they could put a new port on it.
Right. Yeah, it's a trivial thing to do that. What I would do, Jim, is I would disassemble it, take the drives out, get the most powerful magnet you can, and just set that magnet on top of it for about 20 minutes.
Set a powerful magnet on top of the hard drives once they're taken out of there.
Yep.
The other thing, you can take a drill and put about 6 or 7 holes through the whole thing, and that'll pretty much take care of it.
That too. Yep.
Or just get a big hammer and work out your frustrations.
I have a friend that takes his old drives out to the rifle range and shoots them and then goes and
Last
drops
word.
them off saying they need to be recalibrated, you know.
I was
Well-
just going to say, you know, a buddy of mine in Cedar Rapids and I used to do that about every 3 months. We'd take whatever computer equipment we weren't using anymore to the gun range and, you know, unload a couple hundred rounds and works off some frustration.
There you go.
I
Yeah,
will
the
say, be careful what you hammer it. My husband took a drive out and was hammering it on a cinder block in the backyard and ended up breaking the cinder block, not the hard drive. So
Oh my
Well,
God.
the other
Yeah.
thing is you can take drives to many of the recycling companies and they shred them right there.
Oh, the shredding companies, John?
Yes, I know we have, where I live in our neighborhood, we have shredding companies come in once a year and you can give them drives and they go right into the shredder on the truck.
There
Does
you go.
Iron Mountain do it?
Say again?
Does Iron Mountain do it?
I believe, I don't know if they do it or not.
do you have to take them out of the case? Because sometimes the cases are quite useful for putting another drive in.
I would recommend taking it out of the case, but I
Yeah.
don't know if you have to.
A less invasive way of doing that is what a lot of broadcasters have in terms of their inventory of equipment. When they used tape cartridges for many, many years, they had a bulk tape eraser, Jim Wynn, you know that. And I'll tell you, if you set that on top of one, if you set a drive on top of that, it is going to zap it real well.
But
Yeah.
a big hammer or a big drill is much more satisfying.
Oh, well, I know. Maybe to you.
I have one of those magnets because my friend worked for the talking book program and they had to erase tapes so they could reuse them. So a friend gave her one of the magnets.
Yeah, that would
So I have one of
absolutely
those
work.
magnets.
Oh,
Yeah.
and speaking of magnets, if you have somebody who's a UHF broadcaster, you can always ask them if you could borrow one of their tubes and set it on top of the magnet assembly for that tube. That will do it real well too.
Oh, just enclosed.
What's that?
In the enclosure. Don't even take it out.
Yeah, you just set it on top of the magnet assembly,
Uh-huh.
shut the door, and then turn the tube on.
There you go. Well, that's a quick and easy. If I had one of those, yeah.
Yeah,
What
they're
kind of
not-
tube are you talking
There
about?
are
I'm not-
not a lot of those around anymore. Those are pretty much obsolete.
Yeah,
Oh, they are. Okay.
I'm showing my age.
A 16-pound hammer will do the job beautifully.
Well, it
Fortunately, those
certainly
are
will,
not
but
obsolete.
I just envision a bunch of little components flying in the air back at me and everything else, because I'd go wild on it. So I'm a little hesitant to do that. So,
That would be fun, wouldn't it?
oh yeah, take out all
Put
my
your safety
frustration.
glasses on.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe a thick jacket too, so your thin skin won't get punctured. But
There's someone else that has their hand raised.
yeah. Okay,
Maybe
well,
we could
thanks,
just set
thanks
this
again,
up as
all
a
your
special
input.
feature at the picnic.
Okay, thanks for your input.
Any other questions?
Maybe at the picnic, we can have a drive hammering as a contest.
Well, now
Yeah.
that'd be interesting.
Sounds dangerous.
I've got a
Um,
hammer.
I do too.
Golden hammer.
A sledgehammer.
But we had an old Volkswagen that for fundraising back in college, we let people take swings with a sledgehammer. So I guess I kind of have that nihilistic bent.
You could also take the drive itself apart and rescue the magnets, which make hell of a refrigerator magnet.
There we go.
And you can take the platters, you take the individual platters out and do whatever you want to with them.
Problem with those magnets are you snap them onto your refrigerator and then you have to get a pry bar to get them off. They are really.
I put a
Right.
thin piece of cardboard behind them.
There you go.
Leave it as a tab, and you just pull it off.
And
There you go.
don't you dare get your fingers between two of them.
But
Uh-uh.
by the way, Peter may be able to speak to it, but we found some big old hard drives once that had 12 sector marks on the center, and
Uh-huh.
he made some lovely clocks. You know, you just
Yeah,
drill a
they-
hole, put a mechanism. So I
Well,
don't know.
Yeah, these were 10 megabyte drives, I think. Cartridge, they were cartridge drives and they were hard sectored. And so they had there were 2 sector marks at one place, and then there were 11 others that just had a single sector mark and evenly spaced, and they were great for clocks. And they're really big. I don't know if we still have any, but they were probably
you
on the
go.
order of about 14 inches in diameter or something like that.
Ginger's holding up one.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Very nice.
Those are real antiques.
Are there any other questions for me before I run away and finish out my evening?
We thank you.
Yeah, you really got us thinking about a lot of good privacy and security and sort of, you know, things that often we don't want to take time to talk about. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you
And
very
give
much,
us
Jeff.
Ideas on how to destroy any hardware we may not appreciate.
Well, you know, yeah, magnets, 45 caliber firearms,
Screwdriver.
sledgehammers, screwdrivers. You know, I like the shredder idea. I'd love to watch that in action.
Mhm.
That would be incredibly satisfying.
John,
There's
you'll have
probably a
to do
YouTube
this.
video.
I
probably.
think it goes into a hopper and then it just disappears. So you hear a crunch because these are big shredders.
Yeah.
So part of the issue around right to repair is that people do not want to recycle lithium batteries, and lithium batteries are in every pair of AirPods. So is Apple going to do what other hardware manufacturers have done and recycle? It's like you could take it to the Apple store and say, here's my old AirPods.
Yeah.
You know, your guess is as good as mine.
issue.
I know that Apple has a robot that it puts a lot of stuff through and gets whatever rare elements it can out of those things. But other than that, we just have to hope for the best.
I tried to
Good
take
question,
some
Joe.
victims over to Batteries Plus,
Cute.
and they said I had to pay them for them to take them.
Yep.
Yep.
That was cute.
Batteries
right,
Plus
folks.
has had a problem with not complying with the city of Austin's recycling. And so that the city of Austin is not picking up their dumpsters anymore. So
Oh,
that is the problem. You can recycle if you go to the Austin Resource Recovery Center, but unfortunately you have to make an appointment. But they make them and you do it online and it doesn't take that long. Robert,
Yeah,
I did.
that's the place. That's the place.
Okay.
so you guys take them? Because I got a lot of batteries that I need to have somebody help me go take.
Um,
Yeah, every 6 months or so.
Empty batteries. Yeah.
Can you drop some batteries off at like at Home Depot along with old light bulbs and stuff? No?
Lowe's will
Not
take them.
anymore.
Not anymore.
Okay.
It's
Is
a
the same
whole
true for
issue.
Lowe's? So is the same true for Lowe's? I haven't taken any up there lately, but I've got a stack.
Yeah. We used to take old light bulbs and stuff.
Guess I could call them and see.
I
Well,
really think at
folks-
this point in time, you have to ask online.
Yep.
Thank
They
you,
will.
Jeff.
Thank you all for having me. I am going to skedaddle. Nancy, either tonight or tomorrow, I will send you that link to Andrew's article.
Thank you, Jeff.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, thanks, folks. Have a
Thank
good night.
you. Thank you so much.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Jeff.